Remember I talked about The War Zone by Alexander Stewart, like back in the spring? Well, it is time to talk about its film adaptation, which I found to be amazing. Welcome to Check That Book, a special place on the internet where we get acquainted with arguably the most disturbing and unorthodox content on the internet. By unorthodox content, I of course mean first and foremost literary work, but also film adaptations. Occasionally, we just take a look at a random disturbing movie, but mainly, yes, books and poetry and gaming. Yes, I think I'm getting myself into things I know nothing about, but I'm an ardent fan and I just want to talk about these things. I want to spread this information because I've seen and read quite a fair bit of really unorthodox content, and I know there's people out there who are genuinely interested in these subjects. So my job the job I've taken upon myself is to introduce you to it so that you can figure out for yourself whether you want to dig deeper yourself or not. And today we are looking at Tim Roth's version of The War Zone by Alexander Stewart. I've spoken about this book before. I will leave the link in the description for you, but the film adaptation itself, wow. It's been talked about on the internet, specifically on YouTube, but not enough in my not so humble opinion. And let me try to introduce you to this adaptation with as few spoilers as possible. Now, this film remains very faithful in its main plot and themes. There are some significant differences in characterization, pacing, and how much psychological interiority is shown. In the novel, there is a lot more access to Tom's internal thoughts, and Tom is the brother character, may I remind you. There's a lot on his shame, confusion, betrayal, his reflections. And in the film, by necessity, of course, it externalizes much of this by visual cues, obviously, acting, atmosphere, which is a big thanks to very decent camera work and sound. Well, the film concentrates more on the horror and the revelation than on anything else, which is okay, but it's the way it's done. It's kind of slow-paced, but at the same time, you are stuck in each scene with this sense of dread, this subtle sense of dread, like, you know, that something is definitely wrong here. Now, whilst the novel has much of a slower build, the film, albeit being tighter and more compressed, still, like I said, keeps you feeling uncomfortable. This movie is uncomfortable, and if you're sensitive to certain subjects, such as sexual violence against women, specifically minors, yeah, I do not recommend in that sense, but at the same time, it is just a good movie, and it has some very interesting and surprising cameos. I will not spoil it for you. Do take a look at The War Zone. I am still questioning the title, The War Zone, but if you read the book, you can kind of connect the dots yourself. And we can talk about this in the comments section. I still encourage you guys to use the comments section. I mean, I read through them all. Sometimes I even respond. Well, almost always I do. The thing is, with this film adaptation, it's kind of like it is a good visual representation of the feelings of dread that were described in the book, without them actually being described, if that makes any sense. So it's like you are reading The War Zone, you feel uncomfortable, but you're immersed in the inner monologues and thoughts of the characters, right? Specifically Tom. But when you watch the film, you expect something bad to happen. and it still doesn't, and it still doesn't. And at one point when it does, you feel you feel not really lost, but you feel helpless. And there's so many questions. If you haven't read the book, it's okay too. You can watch this film and still get this experience of being as if you are kind of like a fly on the wall. You're kind of there. You see it all firsthand, but you can't do anything about it. And it's horrifying. Both versions try to evoke shame, guilt, on multiple sides. Tom's guilt, his sister's shame and defense, mother's ignorance and father's denial. But internal guilt is more accessible in the novel. The film uses visuals to shock, such as the bath scene, if you know, you know, the violent acts themselves, and confrontation, which I found to be the most intense scene in the movie, despite it not showing anything grotesque. This is a truly dark story of one seriously disturbed family. And albeit it doesn't show you much, the movie doesn't show you much, and I love it. Because you don't have to shock the audience just by showing some sick imagery, right? Right. You don't have to. Sometimes all you need is this ambiguance, this atmosphere of crawling dread. It just crawls under your skin, slowly but surely, making you expect the worst. And, well, the worst happens. And also, the novel is drawn more to the psychological damage. It might make the reader dwell longer on Tom's perspective and his confusion and conflict, whilst the film, with its imagery and sets and confrontations, well, it uses tension and suspense from almost all sides, even the mother, more towards the end. And I like that, because you end up feeling that, yeah, these are all real people and they all must react to this somehow, right? They all have their perspective. So sure, whilst Tom here is kind of like a main character figure, we get a lot of focus on his sister as well. In both the novel and the film adaptation of The War Zone, the central themes of incest, silence, betrayal, and psychological trauma are powerfully explored. But each medium approaches them differently. The novel delves deeply into the internal experiences of the characters, specifically Tom. And in contrast, the film, while staying true to the core narrative, conveys its emotional weight through stark visuals, haunting silences, and intense performances, relying less on dialogue and more on atmosphere. These differences highlight the strengths and limitations of each form. Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's that for now. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like unorthodox content, consider giving this video a boost in the form of an erect thumb, and make sure to subscribe for more. Take good care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I shall see you all as soon as possible. Goodbye!